Okay. Assalamu alaikum, Umar. Happy Juma Mubarak. That makes sense. Okay. And welcome to Serious and Sincere, where we do matchmaking for Muslims who are serious and sincere about finding their mate. We interview one Muslim seeking marriage live on Instagram every Friday evening at 9 p.m. And then we post their video on our Instagram and YouTube pages to let the algorithm do what it does. So we are waiting for this evening's guest, Sister Shaakira, who is with us in Washington, D.C. Assalamu alaikum, Corey. One more time. Oh, and I think this is her.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How you doing this evening?
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, how are you?
I'm well and grateful for it. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Shaakira Rahim, and I'm an educator. I am of Yoruba descent. My parents are from Ghana and Nigeria, West Africa. What else do I say?
Let's see. How old are you?
Okay,
And where do you live?
Bismillah. I'm 33 years old. I live in Maryland.
Okay.
I love travel. I am a student of faith, I guess you could say, inshaAllah, a student of the Quran. Yeah.
Okay. Did you get to read Surah Al-Kahf today?
Yes,
or at least listen to it?
Yes, I did. I read
Okay.
it today after Fajr. Sometimes I read it on my own. Sometimes my sister and I read together.
Oh, that's
And
beautiful.
so we got to read together this morning. Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. So like Auntie Ma. Do you all have that as a family tradition? Our family used to do that after Salat, after Fajr. Do you all continue that as a tradition, the two of you?
So it's funny. I feel like we started that during the pandemic because we felt like we had. Sister Corey's asking if I'm connected to Wi-Fi. I'm wondering. You can hear me well, though, right?
Yes.
Okay,
I can hear you.
Okay, great. So yeah, we started that during the pandemic because we just had more time. I also started taking my tajweed class. Like I also started spending a lot more time in my tajweed classes, my Quran classes, and so I had more time to recite together. But there was actually a group of us sisters. I call them my Quran sisters, and we would just get together and recite Surah Al-Kahf on Friday. Sometimes we would do Lakia after Asr. And you know, there was one of the pandemic Ramadans, I have to think back, we completed the Quran together, and that was really powerful for us. And so, yeah, it wasn't a family tradition growing up, but inshallah it will be. Sometimes my son will come and like lay down next to me and like listen to me recite.
Yes. Okay. So your husband to be, inshallah, is that a quality he needs to possess? He needs to be willing to at least every other Friday read with you?
Yes, inshallah. Or, you know, it's funny because, yes, read with me or read on his own or together. I have a friend who used to, you know, she would say that her husband, she stopped reading with him because he was always correcting her.
Okay.
But no, that's important to me. I definitely recognize and honor, and I pray that Allah continues to expand my awareness of the healing power and properties of the Quran. And so recitation, even if I'm not reading, I try to play it at home, play it in the background. Yeah.
Okay. So this brother shouldn't sound like Rice Krispies when he read the Quran, right? He need to have a nice honey drip recitation, inshallah.
That would be nice. That would be nice. And I'll say that even like for me, like I said, subhanAllah, it's just recently where I mean, I'm still like, I'm not, I don't have any jobs or anything, but I do believe that anybody can learn how to recite well. And so if he's not there, he should be studying to get there because it's possible. I think sometimes people feel like, oh, I'm never going to be able to recite like this or that. But, this is a message from Allah. And so the same way you're in school and you practice plays or you want to recite a poem properly, it's like, subhanAllah, this is knowing that there's a way that we can recite that mirrors the way our Prophet Muhammad SAW recited. I think it's important to strive towards that. And, it feels good when you can recite, you just, it's nice to recite it well. You be feeling yourself a little, mashallah, like, Allah, this is for you.
I mean, for real, it should sound like the blessing it is. For real, for real.
Right.
Okay. How tall are you?
I'm 5'6" and I'm just kidding. 5'6".
Okay. Okay. Do you want him to look you in your eye, or you want him to be able to like look at the top of your head? Like, what's his height requirement?
Oh, yes. So let me see. That's a good question. I guess like 5'8" or higher. I'm not too, yeah, I guess like 5'7", 5'8" or higher, I guess, or taller, should I say.
Okay,
Yeah.
leave the trees to me then. Right on. Okay. Now, should he be weight proportionate to height? Do you have a body type that you prefer?
Yes, definitely healthy. And fit. Like I strive to exercise. I'm very active, so I go hiking, I run. I'm a yoga instructor as well, and so somebody who's active, that's important, and healthy. Inshallah, I want a long life and to be active with children, and so yeah.
Inshallah. Okay. Should he be good with his hands,
Uh,
like building
that's
things? Does that
yeah.
look
So it's funny because yeah, ideally, yes. One of my dream goals is to open up a wellness center. I'm actually on the path to it, inshallah, bismillah, to build a wellness center in Ghana. And so because we're going from scratch, like we have a large quantity of land, but because we're trying to build from scratch, part of that is working with local carpenters, getting our hands dirty, building on the farm, building. So inshallah, Allah will make it happen. But yeah, it would be great if he could get his hands dirty and get down with that. And I love
okay?
being, outdoors. Like I go camping and hiking and, like that's important to me. I think life skills are essential. I love intellectualism and I love to pick up a book and all of that. And like the practical life skills are so
Yeah.
essential because like if an apocalypse goes down, like if something go down, like I'm ready. So I hear Brother Who's going to be ready too. Uh,
Go out and make some bricks. For real.
Look, make it
Yeah.
happen. That can't be done. And that's, I definitely grew up like loving sci-fi and all of that, like, the Twilight Zone and The Walking Dead. Like I had to stop watching The Walking Dead because I remember when I was pregnant feeling like I was like there were zombies coming after me. But I'm like, there's certain things that I'm ready. Like whenever I'm in a place, I'm like, okay, so if something goes down, that's the exit. Like, you gotta be ready.
Are you into gardening?
Yes. So I had a garden when I lived in DC and the rats like all got into it. But that's actually my mother passed. May Allah have mercy on her
I
in
mean,
Ramadan of 2017. And I remember when she was living in Ghana, she had such a beautiful garden. She grew tomatoes, pomegranates, broccoli, sorrel, peppermint and mint. I brought her peppermint from Morocco when I used to live out there. But I just remember the joy that she had when she was like working and cultivating the earth. And I think that's part of our duty as humans, right? Like we're the caliphas of earth. And so what an honor it is that Allah has taught us how to like literally grow things from it, right? And feed ourselves and feed our communities. So that's something that I want to do more of. I don't have a garden at this moment, but when I get the
okay.
time, I do go to other, like I volunteered on like Fitcher Farms in Virginia. I spent some time out there. Yeah. And so, Yeah.
Could you tell our viewers what Fitra Farms is? Because I know
Uh,
about it, but
yeah.
yeah.
Pitcher Farms, black Muslim owned, Muslim owned. They're black. It's a black family. They're Muslim. Sister Sakina and her husband Omar, but they have a homestead. So they have, like, is it 9 or 10 children? SubhanAllah, I can't remember. MashaAllah, very beautiful
Yeah,
family. May Allah preserve
over
them in their efforts. But
I
they
mean,
have an animal farm. They have vegetables. Them kids know how to work. Like, they have taught them how to build things.
yes.
And they have beekeeping, mashallah, just so many things. And they actually host Qurbani. So they teach people how to slaughter sheep and all of that. But I really enjoyed the time I spent with them, because, we talked about that, right? Like having life skills and survival skills. And she mentioned how during the pandemic, how the stores are putting limitations on what you could buy. But she would normally buy so much because she has such a large family. And so in moments like that, she realized the importance of being able to provide for herself and her family. And so they're making their own pasta, like they're just doing all of that on their own. And I really appreciate that. May Allah preserve their efforts. And I know that they love to have people come through. They sell milk and chicken and meat and everything. So hit them up, mashallah. Beautiful, beautiful family. Yeah.
Yes, and they're organic. I do believe they do grass fed. They
Yeah.
specialize.
I was thinking
Yes,
about chickens because I was eating some chicken from there, and I was like, oh wait, so the chicken I get from, even the halal markets and stores, but just subhanallah, the level of, like, you don't even realize how many hormones and unnatural things are in your food. And so when you go and you have this experience and it tastes different, you're like, oh, this is actually what chicken tastes like when it's not pumped up with fake
yeah.
things to make it, bigger or grow faster, etc. So they're very knowledgeable and very generous with their knowledge. So it's a nice spot to be.
Do you have
Um,
any children?
I'm sorry?
You mentioned they have children. Do you have any children?
Yes, I have a son who is 7 years old. Um,
Okay.
yeah, and he is a joy, mashallah. Yeah, so it's me and him. Ride or die.
Okay. Right on. And so, inshallah, how does this brother factor in? How would he need to factor in between Ghana and how you enjoy Fitcher Farms and you raising your son?
Well, so it's funny. I'm gonna take one step back because I saw Sister Corey had put a question there about where I've lived, and I think that kind of feeds into this. I lived in Morocco, in Canada. I've lived in Ohio, Massachusetts, the DC area. Um, I've spent time in other. I lived in Ghana. Yes, I said that already. But I've traveled a lot to all parts of Africa, Europe. Spent some time in different parts of Asia, like Hong Kong, Taiwan, etc. And for me, cultural competency is really important. Allah says to go around and see the world. So He created some different tribes so we can get to know each other. And so for me, that's essential. And when it comes to my home, you know, I bring that perspective in. So I try to help my son understand that you see things one way. That doesn't necessarily mean that everyone else sees it that way, right? And so how do we, and this is part of, like, even some of my master's research in education was on, like, developing critical literacy. And so I would walk into the classroom, and the easy way to put it is, like, I would put on shades. And so I'm like, all right, y'all, we're going to look at it this through a woman's lens, or a post-colonial lens, or this and that. And so my kids, they start being like, oh, wait, where your shades at, Miss Raheem? But really recognizing that you literally put on a lens. And so it's important, I think, when you're joining a family, especially what would be a mixed family, to be able to be empathetic and to understand where people are coming from, to understand that you might do something that reminds me of something else, or you might be carrying your own baggage or a response from a relationship you had before. And so I think that whoever enters our family and inshallah leads and, expands it, may Allah put barakah in it for all of us, will will need to be intentional about resetting. I think there's going to be a lot of ritual setting in terms of just saying, now this is a new unit. What can we do to establish rituals, to establish a healthy environment where we have our own traditions that we can, be intentional about creating that kind of that are manifestations of our values as a Muslim family. And so, really, just someone who's open and who recognizes that the impact of their actions makes a difference, and that we as adults, as parents, model so much for our children. It's not really about what we say all the time, but it's what they see, right? And so I could say to my son, yeah, prayer is important. But when he wakes up in the morning and he sees that I'm already on a prayer mat, then that's like, for him, that's what that means. When I say, it's important to share, but whenever we see a homeless person on the street and then you stop and you just say, oh, do we have change in the car? Look for quarters, and we give what we can, then that to him means more, right, than me just saying it. And so I'm looking for someone who can walk the walk, inshallah. And we all just out here trying to walk. Sometimes we crawling, sometimes we just breathing, but we
rolling on the ground.
Sometimes I'm laying down like this. I'm like, ya Allah.
Okay, as long as you worship for real. I mean, I like your vocabulary. Okay, we get it together. Okay, for real.
I'm clearly a little silly. I like to make people, that's something I guess you asked me about myself. I was all like, I don't want to, but I enjoy laughing. I enjoy making people laugh, amongst my sisters, like, I'm like the jokester, and that's just kind of, it brings me joy to see people laugh. And I think it allows me to connect to people as well, because that's wherever you going around the world, like, people like to laugh, people like to smile. And so the Prophet said smiling is like a form of charity, right? And so the opportunity to exchange that with people is a blessing.
Ameen. So this brother should have a good sense of humor, and that's part of his cultural competency to you? He's stiff and stoic and unmoved.
And just like, because like I know I might, like, you can spit, like, we could talk some deen, but then when I start freestyling around, you gotta be able to catch up. You gotta be able to catch up. I'm teasing, no, but I really. Someone's asking me if I would consider marrying a brother from another country. Yeah, and I think that when I've traveled to different places, there's so many values or aspects of cultures that I've seen that are beautiful. And I think that if I were to marry someone from another country, another culture, another race, they would have to. I think it's important that they've also had exposure and recognized, right? Because there's so many things that we do. And we don't necessarily even recognize what we do. And so and this is the case with, even for, let's say, African Americans, right? Like Rez Momenicum wrote in his book, My Grandmother's Hands, that there's so much of our culture that's not necessarily culture, but it's trauma response. And so when we look at our conditions and we look at our situations, just knowing what informs how we see the world, what informs why we do this. So did your parents beat you? Did they scream at you? Like, ask ways in which that you were raised, and what informs how you want to raise your children. Because a lot of times we just do things because that's how we were taught. But I think part of what I say about cultural competency is having that critical reflection to look at yourself and say, what informs why I do this? Why am I doing this? Right? There's so much that we do just like default. And so you got to recognize what you naturally tend to do and then analyze it, like, well, why do I do this? Okay, it's informed by these things, and that helps because you're always going to be people who do something differently, but now you can at least articulate, well, this is why I do what I do. Can you tell me more about what you're doing? And then we can compare and figure out, well, what's best for us in this situation? Because a lot of times the conflict isn't necessarily about, like, we see it as me versus you, and it's like, no, my pattern, and then the pattern that you have. But if we're really in this to win it, how can we figure out what the best pattern for us moving forward is? And I think that requires a level of cultural competency, critical reflection, vulnerability, etc., to be able to, like, navigate that.
A high emotional quotient,
Oh,
because somebody can recognize, yeah, somebody can recognize those points, but still be unwilling or unable to change those things they need to change.
absolutely. Yes, it's true. And it's hard. Change is hard. Look, like I work at a school and we're going through some change management. Like change is not easy. Even for me to like change my morning routine. When I get up and I don't get to exercise and I have to go straight to it's tough. And so also being have extending grace, right? And knowing that like I'm gonna try, you're gonna try, we're not perfect. But you know, if and I have if Allah, if we want Allah to forgive us and to not give up on us, we have to be trying our best to not to help and assist each other.
I mean,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
so
And emotional intelligence is key because sometimes people they'll be hurting you and they don't even see it, or you bringing all this trauma and stress. Like I'm a big fan of therapy. Get help, talk it out. You know, whatever forms. Like I'm really connected to nature. I love spending time. For me, it's there's so much healing just being surrounded by life. Um, and like, you know, there are ways I have a toolkit. Like I have tools in my toolbox that I know when I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm feeling stressed, I'm feeling this way or that way. These are things that I do to help manage that. And I think it's really important that everyone has that. And unfortunately, in this country, in a lot of our communities, brothers don't really get that much attention, don't really get to explore their emotions or their mental health in that way. Um, and for a lot of us, right, like my journey of exploring myself and healing started much later in life. And I think that's part of why I started getting into mindfulness and I started teaching mindfulness because I realized it's something that's been missing. And that's even within, you know, for Muslim communities, right? Like the Prophet Muhammad Sallam used to meditate in a cave, and that's how he got the first revelation. But that silence, that fikr, that contemplation, that's essential in our deen, but it's not necessarily something that I learned in Sunday school, right? Like
okay,
no one said, yeah, sit down with yourself and just sit with Allah for 5 minutes, right? No one said that. But that was literally the condition that allowed for that first revelation, Iqra bismi rabbika, you know, like for that to come. And so,
and
yeah.
do you take time for yourself that way? Are you able to take time for yourself that way? And like you said, do you extend that grace to your spouse as necessary?
Yeah, inshallah. So it's straight up, whenever I've moved a lot. Like I said, I've lived in a lot of different places. So there were some times in my life where, you know, like when I was living in Morocco, when I was teaching English out there, I worked like 20 hours a week. So let me tell you, every day I would go to the beach and like sunbathe and like just stare at the clouds and like count, you know, how many planes went by, you know. And I'm not, you know, I do a lot of things. I'm not just laying around. But now with my very busy schedule, that time comes in the morning, early morning, when I get to just sit with Allah. And yeah, but I realized that, and I used to be like, when am I going to do this? It's like, well, I got to get up early before my son or before I got to start doing this and that. But now that I've been doing it, I'm so grateful because it's the calm, right? Like life can be, there's so many waves, there's so many storms that come through, but it really anchors me to know that like I have this intimate time with my creator. Um, and it's so valuable. It's alhamdulillah. I pray that everyone has an opportunity, that Allah expands it for us, because you know faith goes up and down. Anything can happen, right? Like you wake up one day and next thing you know you have doubt, you know. So I pray that Allah preserves all of our faith and that we all have an opportunity in each day to really just sit with our breath. And sometimes it's just like at work, you know, like people know. I'll tell my kids, I'm like, take a deep breath. Let's take 3 deep breaths, right? Because even just that connecting to that inhale and exhale and knowing that as long as you have that breath, that's Allah giving you a chance to connect with Him, to like do something better, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. So what's your timeline for moving towards this more indigenous lifestyle?
yeah, inshallah. Allah is the best of planners.
That's true. So
um, that means I don't know. I'm just kidding.
that.
No,
What
my
do the next 6 months look then?
okay.
How did the next
Yeah,
6 months look
so
for you?
yeah, subhanAllah, we need a lot of money. We need a lot of coins. So I'm trying to figure out like fundraising. I'm praying that inshaAllah this Ramadan I can do some fundraising. I've heard things from people about the communities not wanting to support, Black people, this, and that, and the third. And so I'm really curious to know. I have a video that I recorded when I was in Ghana this summer. But my goal is to just go with a small group this summer, inshallah, to Ghana. And just, that'll be I guess the first group. And that will just mainly be working with some local carpenters to just do some real basic, maybe like working on the foundation of one structure. But we have to build roads. We need electricity. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. But we really have a passionate farmer over there who's, may Allah preserve and protect Brother Mustafa, who's taking care of the land for us. But I think it's a longer term project. And frankly, where it's called Al Kaf Institute, where I want it to be.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to reach its peak in my lifetime, right? Inshallah, Allahu Alam. But I think that ultimately I want there to be an Al-Kaf and multiple Al-Kafs. So not only Ghana, but Nigeria and Tanzania and Morocco and Chicago and New York and DC, right? And so it's a big dream. I used to read Word Up magazine. That's so corny.
Now you went on and making collard greens. I mean, yeah. So I look forward to it. So how much money do we need for this summer?
A whole lot of money. So I'm not even there yet. I'm meeting with an architect, inshallah. There's an architect who I was talking to who's here, but when I was in Ghana this summer, I was advised to, naturally to work with someone local, right? But this was someone who's in the Ghanaian American Muslim community here. But And so when I go back, yeah, I know, right? All the coins, Bismillah, right? If Allah can put barakah, I can get 100K, and if Allah puts barakah in it, right? Then that could be, and so really all the coins. Thank you, Corey. I'm like, how much? And frankly, it's like I said, so we have Al-Kaf Institute, and inshallah soon I'll be posting up the video. If anyone's interested, please reach out. But 28 acres, right? That's a lot to work with. But essentially we want it to be we want there to still be a farm. We want a library. I thought I was going to sneeze. I've been contemplating, because when I was younger, I wanted to open up a school. And then now that I'm a administrator, I'm a dean of students at a private school in the DMV, and I'm just like, subhanAllah, it's so much work. But I think that if Allah blesses us with the right team, that would be ideal, right? And so the idea of a wellness school, right, where we're really teaching kids these social, emotional learning skills, the skills that are the life skills, and that's part of it, right? Because you have people who can make a lot of coin, but they can't get themselves out of depression or out of anxiety, right, or out of doubt. And so really focusing on the skills that are going to help us be successful in, inshallah, in Allah's eyes. But that liberation, that economic liberation is also key, right? Because that's how we build for ourselves. That's how we develop our own institution. So that's essential as well. And so some of it is entrepreneurship, is helping people to find their gifts and to figure out how to contribute together to not only just make money off of it, but to be able to live off of those gifts, inshallah.
Yes. Okay. Like Mecca to Medina and back again.
No.
So which Sahaba would be which Sahaba would you say this brother would be most like?
SubhanAllah. That's a tough question. It's funny because I saw like an episode, and I was like, oh, I hope she don't ask me that because I don't know. I think, it's because it's so tough because they were all like, mashallah, they all had different attributes. And it's funny because
Yes.
for me, I think about the ladies and who I'm trying to be like. But
Okay.
but I will say, I think possibly Omar, because I know, because he was the go getter. Like, there's so many stories you hear, and you're just like, oh, yeah, Omar, like, yeah, he was a chick, like, like, okay, that would have been me. Like, they chilling in the masjid, and the Prophet Muhammad Sallam is like, oh, the next person who's coming through the door is a person of Jannah. And they see the brother, and the other Sahaba are like, oh, okay, mashallah. Omar's like, hold up. And, like, goes to him and is like, I have a family problem. I need to stay with you for a little bit because there's things going on. I can't stay at home. And, like, goes through all of this. Like, he's out here trying to figure out what's going on, And so I appreciate how whenever there was like, I feel like, mashallah, he was always like, he was a fighter, right? But he was always fighting for things, like trying to figure out how to be the best, how to get better. And he couldn't be as generous as Abu Bakr, but the fact that he was always striving to, right? Like, subhanAllah. And so I'm not somebody who, it's like, you don't have to have so much. If you're always looking at how to get better, I think that would be like some on my wavelength, because I'm always thinking about, okay, what's the next move? How can I get this and that? How do I get closer to Allah? I was just thinking about, like, where am I going to put my son in school next year? Because I want him to have A, B, C, D, right? And so, someone who's striving to get closer to Allah.
Okay. Now, which female Sahabas? Which one is your companion? Because there was some stellar. Yes.
So, Salama, but okay, so there are two things, right? Like, one, I'll say, I actually think about, like, the four women. I took this class with Sheikh Aisha Prime. We also had a retreat in November. I'll be leading retreats, mashallah. We'll just throw that in there. We're headed to Ramadan. 2023 is coming up in March. You can sign up for that.
Okay.
Sheikh Aisha Prime's not going to be there, but I'm in conjunction with Center DC. Back to answering your question, I had to throw that little plug. When we talked about, like, the four honorable women, right? And so when I think of Queen Asiya, we think of Fatima Zahra, Khadija radiallahu anha, and Miriam. I think I love and admire all of them. And I think that I appreciate how, and I'm striving right now in this point of my life to be more like Queen Asiya. Like, when you think of the oppression that she faced from her own husband and all of the trials. And a lot of times when we're going through hardship, it's kind of like osmosis, and it impacts us. And we just want to be bitter. We're like, well, shoot, I don't need to smile today because so-and-so did this, right? Or we allow the hardness of other people to impact us. She lived with the most oppressive man and was still such a gentle, generous, kind, loving soul. And so for me, that's, like, admirable, because, like I said, like, for me, I'll have a challenging boss, and then I'm on a weekend, I'm sitting here like, shoot, throw them bows, But, like, this is a woman who literally lived with Pharaoh and was able to love and care for Musa, alayhi salam, like, was able to do was able to do so much, and she had so much faith, and Allah promised her this home in Jannah. And so I just, she's a woman who was able to maintain that softness. And sometimes when I look at aspects of my life, some of the path, like I said, when you're going through the healing journey and you're trying to recover from trauma, or you're just a Black woman in America because it's tough and you count down when you can go to Ghana, you realize that there's a lot, right? There's a lot out there, but what does it look like to still have my fortress, to still have my cave, Al-Kaf Institute, and to maintain that gentleness, to maintain that softness, that compassion that Allah has blessed me with, and to not let that impact me. And it's like, if she could do it, living like sharing a bed with Pharaoh, with this super oppressive man, then I can strive to still maintain that level of compassion, inshallah. So that's who I'm trying to be like right now.
Okay. What story resonated with you the most from your reading of Surah Al-Kahf today?
Ooh, subhanAllah. That's a good one. So I was reading it in Arabic, but the story that really gets me is I love. So I mean, this is like super minor. I'll give you the super minor, but I can talk about like the youth going to the cave and
Okay.
them just like trying to. But the fish, I'm like I'm like, they really just like he really just they noticed that, right? And how like sometimes we're so laser focused on our like on what we're trying to get done and we're not
Mhm.
necessarily fully present. And so
Mhm.
there's so many signs that Allah kind of gives us. And this was a sign that they were looking for. But
Yes.
because they were so laser focused, it's just kind of, like they just didn't, oh, like what happened? Oh, we got to go back. Where was the
Yes.
fish, right? And so
Yes.
that reminds me that slowing down is really essential. And that allows you to be present because Allah, there are always signs around us. But if we're not like slowing down to see them, they'll just pass by and you don't know what gifts Allah has waiting for you. But
And it still all happens for a reason. You know,
right, right,
they had
right.
to backtrack, which is how they ran into Kidda.
Mm-hmm.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah,
Yes. Okay.
alhamdulillah.
Yes. Should this brother have children, or if he does, do you prefer they be of a certain age group?
The Brady Brunch. Um, I um, I guess yeah. I don't mind. I don't mind him having children. I can't say that I want because I want more children. And
Inshallah.
so inshallah, and so I think that if he has kids around my son's age, that would be lovely. So then they can um, play together. But my son is also good with older kids. Like I have nieces and nephews who are older and younger.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm not trying to have a child who feels like my sibling.
That means daddy shouldn't be pop pop to nobody, right? Okay.
But I guess, yeah, I guess I could say I'm open to that, but I wouldn't want too many, because like I said, I still want more children of my own. And so, but I grew up in a mixed home and, yeah.
Inshallah.
So,
Inshallah. So do you want like a black nationalist, a Pan Africanist? Do you want somebody who doesn't really care one way or the other?
I'm black and black, black, black. I,
Email.
full stop. I'm just
Okay.
kidding. No. Yeah. So I love, it's funny because I'm definitely a Pan Africanist, and it's interesting because there's even a nuance between that and Black nationalists, right? And I think I don't. I mean, I love my ancestry is Yoruba, and I'm not a tribalist or anything, but I know that Yorubas are known. Both of my parents were Yoruba. May Allah have mercy on them. Are known
Ameen.
for their spirituality and their strength, and so that's something that I'm constantly trying to channel. I feel like my ancestors were warriors. They were religious fighters, and spiritual and connected to the earth and nature. And I believe that people on the continent have that ability and that knowledge that is really sacred and unique. And it's really unfortunate, to say the least, that so many people were robbed from that knowledge when they were kidnapped and brought over here. And so anyone who's seeking that, I think is really essential. I believe borders and boundaries and a lot of systems in general are whack. And so, like for example, I'm waiting to get my son's passport renewed. I'm like, why do I need to like get approval from this government before my son can travel back home? Like to me, those things are like absurd, right? To me, it's ridiculous. And so when we look at the continent, right, and all of these man-made, the countries that we have, it was white people in Europe in 1880s, right? And at the Berlin Conference deciding, oh yeah, this is going to be Togo, this is going to be Ghana, this is going to be, and so someone whose understanding of humanity, whose understanding of people transcends these man-made borders that we have, and recognizes that we have to work together to really get our liberation as a people. I think that the journey of Black people is specific, and the journey of Muslims is specific, and the
I mean,
journey of Black Muslims is, mashallah, one that I pray that there's a special place in Jannah for us, because of the trials that we have to go through, as with racism and then Islamophobia, and then, even within our Muslim communities here, right? Look at how challenging it is for us to find Islamic schools for our children, right? It's ridiculous that I have to worry about racism in the Islamic schools, and then in the private schools or the public schools, I'm worried about other things. And so it shouldn't be that difficult for us. And so I definitely want someone who's able to kind of recognize those challenges, but isn't problem centered, is looking at the solution and how we can. And that's what I'm trying to do with my wellness center, Al Kaf, is I'm trying to create solutions, and I'm trying to create a space where people can come to make more solutions for our people. And so you don't really have to be Black to do that, but you gotta be real down. You probably gotta have Black friends.
yeah,
It's probably a little
wow,
easier to be Black. But like I'm trying to be open, because I don't know where Allah, the same way, we just talked about slowing down and being present. You don't know where the gifts that Allah has for you are. So I'm not going to place limitations on myself that Allah hasn't placed on me. But this mindset, and this search, and striving towards liberation, is essential. And my partner needs to recognize and understand that it's, uh, also a unique journey for Black Muslims.
I mean, a
Mm-hmm.
sensitivity, a
Mm-hmm.
sense. Yes. Okay. Whew. That was good. Alhamdulillah. I don't know where else to go with that. Cause yeah, that,
Um,
that was thorough. Is there anything else you have to share or would like to ask?
um, what do people ask? I guess I'm just, yeah, I guess, I'm looking for, I guess, a friend, right? Somebody who is going to, okay, someone actually, Corey asked what I miss about marriage. Yeah,
Yeah.
that friendship, having someone to rely on, um, having someone to support. My son is like, it's funny because I feel like we're, kind of like, I have friends, but, like in the house it's me and him. And so it's nice to have, and I work at a school. And so I'm not necessarily always dealing with adults outside of, like, I spend most of my time around children, right, and teenagers. And so it's nice to have an adult to have conversations to reflect on, to bounce ideas off of, where it's really, some of the work that I'm trying to do is a little scary, because it's kind of like, it feels like a really big risk. So sometimes I'm like, oh, and so, having someone to support me and encourage me, as a woman, what I'm looking for in a partner is someone who's a protector, right? That's the role of men, in our deen. And so I miss that too. I miss a lot. Yeah.
Did your son ever speak to you about what he's expecting in a in a
All the
in a
time. He lets me know that he's ready for, he's expecting someone who's going to give him some siblings. I
yo.
know that much. I
Yo,
know that
that's
much. That's, yeah,
for
he's
real.
like, he's ready to be a big brother. He is so ready, mashallah. When we see, my nieces and nephews, he's always like ready to read to them and take care, like, mashallah, he's very loving. But, someone who's going to lead us in salah, um, someone who will spend time. Like I said, we like to go, I like silence, but we also like to go hiking. I like to travel. And so someone who will just add to that with us. Someone who, is going to eat when I cook, all of the things, all
Yeah.
of the things.
Okay. I just got a prayer request today for some siblings. Say I'm just going to pray for a little sister because he basically, I guess, I was not moving on his yeah, alhamdulillah.
That's the official version that when, yep, whatever he says that he wants, I'm like, well, let's pray for that Allah blesses me with the righteous partner, right? Who's going to be the, because that's the first step.
I
And so
mean,
he'll say, I mean, he's always busting out I mean. Um, there's a great question. The number one lesson I learned from my previous marriage is that I am worthy of boundaries.
can you repeat that because it went out?
I was just a call. I'm worthy of my boundaries and my expectations. That there's nothing wrong with setting them and sticking to them, and that it doesn't. I think I kind of grew up, especially in my some African cultures where like you want to be humble and you want to show that you're selfless. But I realized that there's nothing wrong with having boundaries. There's nothing wrong with having expectations, and it doesn't mean that I'm arrogant or anything. It just means that I have standards. And so there's nothing wrong with having my standards. Yeah. Oh, I can't hear you.
Oh, I said
Oh, okay.
alhamdulillah. I was just thinking about that one. Yes.
You
Yes.
need me to expand or something or? Okay.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
I got it when you said it may not have been major, but you said somebody who eats when I cook, that kind of appreciation, the respect for effort.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's acknowledging your love languages,
Mm-hmm.
Do you have love languages or do you recognize love languages?
Yes, I do. In fact, and I'm all about, for me, I'm like, well, I know the way I like to express love naturally and then how I receive love too. And those are two different
Okay.
things. And so
Okay.
I'm very like touch is really important to me, and that's how it was when I was younger. Like if you ask my sisters, I'd be like, "Give me a hug," and I'd be hugging them for like 10 minutes. They'd be like, "Get off me," So I'm always like finding a reason to touch somebody. But I work at a school, so even sometimes my kids come to my office and they be crying. I'm like, do you need a hug? Can I hug you? Make sure. So even my son, he's like that too. So I'm always teaching him about consent. Like, she didn't want to hold my, did you ask her? Make sure you ask. So I don't just be out here. But I know that I love to touch and show appreciation that way. And I'm also really big on words of affirmation. So just yesterday morning, I had boys in my office, some of my Black boys who come in, and I was like, everyone repeat after me, and they did their morning mantras with me. I was like, you're gonna be successful, this and that. And I really believe in the power of words. So those for me, I will dash those to you. I will give it to you. I'll be saying, you can say, I'll make a prayer for you. I'll pray for you anytime. I'm like, and it shall be at me, like speak it. And then for receiving love, I'd say also I like words of affirmation. I like time. I like it when people spend time with me. That's really major for me.
Okay. Okay. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. It looks like what's that?
I thought I heard my roommate wake up.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just checking.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. Just checking.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
But I think
Okay.
it's important to reflect on that because a lot of times people don't know how they like to receive love, and it's an easy way to win over someone's heart.
You okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. I think that's it. I just drew a blank.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. That's fine. You were asking me about love languages, and so I shared that. But I like all the things, I guess. But yeah, I think time is important, especially now when people are really busy. Being able to slow down and like just pay attention to someone, that's essential. Yeah.
Going back to the cave, one of the things Allah told the youth when He woke them up was to seek a certain type of food.
Mhm.
And He said, go get the best food. Is that something that you recognize as being a part of a brother's, like his diet? Do you recognize that as being something that's critical to his emotional balance?
Oof, yes, subhanAllah. And we could be on that journey together because I'm not, I try, and I guess it's relative because I have friends who are like, oh, I don't eat dairy. I don't do this, that, and third. And for me, like, I feel like I'm probably, but I know that compared to a lot of other people, I made, so I strive to eat consciously. Like I drink oat milk. I try to get healthy. Like I try not to get so many processed foods, but I know I could do better. Like this evening, it's Friday night, so I made brownies with my son, you know. But I think a lot of junk, like I try not to eat out too much.
Okay.
And I don't, like I don't really get into junk. Like I'll make my own chai. Like, I just try to make my own things. So that way I know what's going into it. But my mother passed um, from breast cancer. And may Allah have mercy on her. Towards the end of her death, she was doing a lot of homeopathic treatments. And so, um, in that, we learned so much about the foods that we eat and how, cancer cells literally feed off of sugar cells, right? And there's sugar in everything. And so just recognizing that so much of what we take in can kill us, and our bodies are an amana, right? But it's also, it takes time and energy and effort and even more money to eat well. And so being intentional to the best of your ability. And, I think like I love cheesecake, but I try to find a balance. And I'm grateful because I have my siblings are pretty conscious about what they eat as well. And so that helps. Like we all encourage each other to,
Yes.
to eat better. Yeah. But
Food is
it's easier if
medicine.
you have somebody. Hmm.
Are you conscious of your blood type? Do you know what your blood type is? Do you cross reference like with certain books? Are you familiar with like Back to Eden? Um,
How to
that's
eat to
like
live. I learned
How to
before.
Eat to Live. All of it. Yeah. Do you
Um,
weave it all together?
so I don't know much about my blood type. I feel like I knew when I when I donated blood once, but I haven't gotten into that. I would love to. I would love to have more time and to dive into all of that. Um, but I haven't. No. Yeah,
Okay.
that's all
Now,
exciting though. Like even knowing the hormones. Like I have friends who have kind of they've stopped eating, like they literally reintroduce foods every few weeks. So then they have a very clear understanding of which foods increase flares for them, which foods make them gassy, etc. And I haven't really taken on any of those journeys yet, but I'm really inspired by my friends who have. I have most of my really close friends like will tell you like they don't eat A, B, C, D, E, F, G because it does A, B, C, D, F, G's for them. And I can't really say.
okay. Okay. I have type O blood.
Okay,
So
good
when she says
for you.
real food is medicine, yeah, like certain things on the list is highly beneficial, other things are neutral, which means they
Mhm.
just operate as they work like food. They don't hurt you, but they don't help you. And then you have things that are on the avoid list, and those are the things that work like poisons. They tend to cause allergic reactions.
And that's
Yeah,
based off of your blood type?
based on your blood type, and that's how the four main blood types evolved over time. Yeah. So I think O is hunter gatherer, and
Ah.
that's yeah. O is hunter gatherer. I forget what AB is, and then there's B. That's my son, and then there's A. And I think one is more agrarian. I think that's what they called it. I didn't study it much because I don't know anybody with it, but yeah, it's
What
really
book is this?
interesting.
What book is this that you're referencing? Let me put it on my list.
It's called Eat Right for Your Blood Type by Dr. Peter Diadamo. That's capital D apostrophe ADAMO. And he actually got into studying the science because his mother had breast cancer. And
Mm-hmm.
and he found that with her being a type B, she wasn't supposed to be eating chicken like she was. You know, it's like it's not terrible for type O's, but for type B's, it's almost like a poison. And my mom, may Allah forgive her sins and grant her paradise. She also had breast cancer, and she loved chicken. She was type B. You know, so there was some things that like she didn't do too much sugar, but she got into the blood type diet prior to, and I do believe that helped her quite a bit when she was trying to navigate that illness.
Okay. SubhanAllah. May Allah have mercy on her. And I think I would love to learn about this. And there's so much that I want to learn about. And so I'm really looking for a partner who I can learn and explore, you know, and grow with, you know, in that way. Yeah. There's so much to learn, SubhanAllah.
I mean,
I'm going to look into that. That makes it a little easy. I'm like, okay, because I don't know if I'm going to stop eating cheese and then reintroduce it, but I can start out with the blood types.
Yes. And I noticed that, you know, even when I was nursing my son, like I couldn't eat certain foods without causing his eczema to flare up, you know, or if I used certain, I want to say medication, like certain topical treatments, you know, were plant-based, they calmed the flare up a lot faster than some other things did. Or if I ate certain foods and I used the breast milk on his skin, you know, help a lot. Like it's definitely food is medicine. Definitely a medicine concept. Alhamdulillah. Yeah. So he need to eat right, you know.
Yes.
That doesn't need to be right. That doesn't, it can be a struggle, you know, it can be a struggle. But
even with my son, I sneak the veggies in, like I make him smoothies, and that's where I sneak in some of the veggies he doesn't like to eat. All you do is add a little date in there, and that makes it sweet.
It tastes like vanilla. Like we love date syrup. Yeah, it tastes like vanilla. It's delicious. It's the banana with the date. You freeze the banana. It's a milkshake on its own. You know, you don't have to do too much.
Banana is key for the texture. Bananas or avocados. Yeah, see?
Alhamdulillah. Okay. Now, where can this brother find you? At Trader Joe's or at the masjid? At Whole Foods?
All of
where can he find
except
you?
for Whole Foods. We're not there yet. You can find me at the masjid. Yeah, I be at MCC sometimes, in Masjid Muhammad. Mostly I'm at MCC just because I'm near there. But yeah, I guess I'm on. So right now, I think I'm logged on through my LLC account. I don't really get on Instagram that much. I need a social media person. But yeah, you can find me. I guess that's a great question. I guess if you message me, yeah, yeah. RadiantRootsLLC.com as well. That's like, you know, and my email is info@RadiantRootsLLC. And yeah, you can come to my retreat in March for Hills Ramadan. You can sign up and we can go to Ghana. You know, that's how you get to know someone by traveling. So it could just be a group of all brothers, and I'm trying to select one. I'm just
okay, and can contribute.
Linda, Sadaqah will beautify anyone. Allah can beautify. I was just, one last thing. I was listening to Imam Jihad Safir. That's who I guess I have like an Imam crush on just because of his philosophy, mashallah. But he was talking about, he was giving a khutbah saying how like Allah can like give people status. Like looking at Musa, right? Like, may Allah have mercy on him. He didn't have the best speech, right? His brother did. He wasn't the most knowledgeable, right? That's what we learned in the spiritual path. But Allah still gave him that status. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be with any skills that you have. If Allah wants to bless you with that status, Allah will bless you with that status, right? And so I just pray that Allah will bless us all with that status and help us find our people so that we can shine together. InshaAllah.
Inshallah. Now, they contact you directly, or do you have a wali
Well,
or wakil?
yeah, yes, I do. And actually, well, I mean, do people usually like reach out to you or Corey for information too? Is that no? That's not a.
I
You're like,
don't know about Corey, but they don't reach out to me.
okay, all
Yeah,
right. I do
yeah.
have a wali, and I can share that. Like, I wouldn't. That's not like I wouldn't want people contacting my wali if I haven't. It's like like I should know before they reach out. So, um,
Okay.
yeah, I do have a wali, and I can provide that information. But yes, I have multiple. I got a few brothers who gonna be
Um,
checking out.
yeah,
Inshallah,
right on.
inshallah. Um, just to protect all the people.
Alhamdulillah. Okay,
Alhamdulillah.
sis, awesome. Yes, it was.
Inshallah. Yes. Thank you, Corey. That was a. I'm not super concise. I can go on sometimes.
That's cool. Okay. Yes, and the Instagram was gonna cut us off anyways.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah,
Alhamdulillah.
we don't get cut off. Yeah, we're gonna end on a high note.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much for
I enjoyed
having
talking
me.
to you.
Me
Yes.
too.
Okay. Thank you for joining us.
Thank
And
you.
y'all stay posted for her information. Okay. If she say you qualified, she'll give you your wali. She'll give her wali a heads up. Okay. Yes. Otherwise, don't waste her time, please. Okay. Because we like this one right here. Okay. You like all our guests, but yeah, this one right here. Okay, you're not going to disturb that piece right there. We're going to roll a rock in front of the cave and keep you out of it. Wallahi. Okay.
It's way too long. You need to cut it. Stop. Alhamdulillah. May Allah put barak in our time. بس
Yes.
والعصر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. May
I
Allah put
mean,
barak in our efforts. Thank you all for this platform. May Allah put barak in it for you all.
I
And may
mean,
Allah bring all of our families closer to each other and closer to Him, inshallah.
I mean, inshallah. Jazakallah khaira.
Oh, yes,
Alhamdulillah.
sir. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
I don't even know how to exit. Oh, here I go.